Can you just describe why you're doing time? Just because I'm trying to make sure, like, where the accountability lies here. Is it on us that you've given us 21 years? I mean, where is the accountability side of this equation?
Oh, I mean, I don't understand. Like, what do you mean? Like,
I'm asking you that question because I'm confused by who you gave 21 years to. I mean, like, I don't care about how much, the jail credit. I mean, 21 years, 18 years, whatever number you want to use. What are you being held accountable for by the system?
oh, so you're saying that it doesn't matter how much, it just matters that I'm accountable for.
No, I'm asking what it is that you are being held to account for.
For aiding and abetting first-degree murder during the course of kidnapping.
Bumping heads with the commissioner of the parole board is not a good way to try to get your freedom, but that is exactly what this man is doing. And I want you to know, this is not his first bite at the apple. This is not his first parole opportunity. He had that opportunity a couple of years ago, and we actually covered that case. So before we watch today's parole hearing, we are going to take a flashback to the past to watch his original hearing. Now, this man, him and three of his buddies, they lured one of their friends into the forest back in 2004, beat him unconscious, then stabbed him to death, lit his truck on fire, and threw him in the river. Just any other day in Minnesota, of course. And here he is showing no remorse, no empathy, nothing. Now, some of you may have seen his original parole hearing. Fewer than 10% of my subscribers have. If you have seen it, feel free to click the stamp in the description to click ahead to the present day. Otherwise, let's jump in for a wild ride.
I don't even remember the first trip, really. I don't remember it, really. The first time we got in that truck. Because I had been drinking all day and all night, till that night.
When you say I did what I did, what is that? What did you do?
Did I kill him? I don't remember. When I do remember Morris given like this, and Keith says I did, but I don't remember it. I don't remember it. I can do 1,000 years in here and I can say I'm sorry 1,000,000 times, but I can't bring him back.
And I can't bring him back. How often have we heard those up for parole making such empty statements? There is one thing that you can do, that you should do when you're up for parole, and that is take accountability. Be honest. But in this parole hearing, I don't think that he is doing either of those things. He makes the lame excuse that he doesn't remember a thing. He does not remember taking the body out into the field, stabbing it over a dozen times, throwing it in the river with his group of friends. But here we are, up for parole. Now, it's quite interesting that you see this crime, it happened in Minnesota, but due to, I guess, how dangerous it was or is for him in Minnesota DOC, maybe because of how cowardly this crime was, he's actually being housed in the state of Utah. Isn't that interesting? I think that's a first for us. No protective custody. Instead, send him to an entirely different state. Hey, when you think you've seen it all. Now, we're going to watch this Minnesota parole hearing, and I'll unpack it with all the details through his appeal at the end. Now, with that, let's jump in.
Mr. Pendleton, our records indicate that on September 24th of 2004, you and 4 accomplices caused the death of Robert Berry Jr. with intent while committing kidnapping. Mr. Berry was beaten, stabbed, and his body dumped in the river. A vehicle along with some of the clothing the suspects were wearing were also burned. On August 20th of 2007, Mr. Jeffrey Pendleton Jr. was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole by Redwood County District Court. On September 16th of 2016, Redwood County resentenced Jeffrey Pendleton Jr. to life with the possibility of parole after you were found guilty of first-degree premeditated murder. Due to new legislation regarding individuals who are juveniles at the time of their offense, Mr. Pendleton now has the opportunity to be reviewed by the Supervised Release Board. Today's review represents his initial review after serving approximately 17 years of incarceration. His parole eligibility date was originally October 19th of 2034. And given the changes by the legislature regarding juvenile cases, Mr. Pendleton is eligible to be considered for release as of October 19th, 2019. Thank you. I turn this matter over to the board.
Good afternoon, Mr. Pendleton. I would like to just start out by asking you to talk a little bit about what you would like to see happen, just given the fact that you became somewhat recently aware of this opportunity to be considered early. So what is it that you would like to see what the board how would you like to see the board acted with regard to your case?
Hello, everybody. My name's, Jeffrey. I wrote you guys, and I've talked to Matthew, and I've just asked him for help. With all my heart, I've asked him for help, and I'd like to go to his, I believe it's a sober living facility, and to do my treatment there under his supervision. And if my family on my reservation said that they'd be willing to let me come there as well, and we have a treatment program on the Lower Sioux Reservation that is also available. So that's what I would like to do. But ultimately it's up to you guys, of course. And I know I got to do your psychological review you want me to do, and I'm more than willing to do that. And excuse me, I haven't slept very well, so this is a lot, man. It's a lot. It just doesn't feel real to me. I have so many things I want to say, and now, I'm ready to go home, man. I want to meet my my nieces and nephews. And I wrote something down I'd like to share with you, if that's okay.
Please.
So I've been going to this class called Smart Recovery that has to do with addictive behaviors, not just drugs, but whatever it may be. And the guy who runs it, his name is Dino, and he's a recovered addict, and he's given back this way. And he said something to me that really resonated with me, that I wrote down because he told me, he said, Jeffrey, are you ready to live life on life's terms? You have to be ready to do that, meaning like society's terms, and on doing right by your family and these things like that. And I was like, it really resonated, because I was like, I'm ready to do that, man. I'm ready to live life on life's terms. I can do it. I know I'm not perfect by any stretch, but I'm someone who's come a long way, and it's not lost on me how unlikely this is. For a long time I figured I was going to grow old and die in here, and this was as good as it got for me. And but I am a person who's willing to wake up each day, put my right foot forward, go to work, pay my taxes, and give every spare moment to ceremonies and to my family. That's what I want to do.
So one of the things that you said, when you're ready to take life on life's terms, is you made the comment of doing right by your family.
Yeah,
Can you just describe, what does that mean?
it means being there for them. It means choosing them over being selfish. It means being there for, for celebrations and graduations and funerals. Not just being almost like a ghost on a phone.
What about the whole notion of doing right? How do you do right by the people who are left behind by your offense?
Put them first whenever I get angry, or whenever I have a thought of doing something I know I shouldn't. I need to think of them and know that they're more important, and that I don't get to squander my, if you're willing to give me a second chance at life, because they were there for me and they didn't have to be.
When you say they were there for me, are you talking about when you were a kid?
Since I've been in here, my family has been there and been supportive, and they could have just left me here for dead. And a lot of them have, but a lot of my family hasn't. And especially my grandparents, they're older now, and I owe them my life. They raised me. My dad was in prison. He was in Stillwater all my life. And my mom was a really bad drug addict, and she was in and out of jail. And yeah, she did the best she could.
Yeah. What about the family of your victims?
I wrote a little statement, and I want to make things right with them as well, because as you know, the victim on my case was married to my aunt. He was my uncle, Uncle Junior. And so I tore my family apart, and I'm wrong for that. I'm wrong for that. And I want to make that right. And I've spoken to my grandma, Joan, my dad's mother, and my Aunt Carla's mother. I spoke to her about this, and I just said, I wanna speak to Auntie Bo. That's what I call her, Carla is Auntie Bo. And them, and if, and I want to apologize, and I wanna make it right somehow. And I asked my little cousin, Nolan Berglund. He's a Joshua. He's a pipe carrier for our family. And I asked him if there's some way we could do a ceremony. There's a ceremony called Untying the Blood Guilt. And it was something people did back in the day so that you could let go of it and the families could move on. and no one else got hurt. And I asked him to look into it. So I've thought of everything I can to try to make it right. And I'm sorry. I'm wrong for what I've done, and I own it.
So one of the things that I read that in your letter, and one of the things I want to tell you is that just I was impressed by, and I think is really laudable, is the work you've done to try and connect to the cultural stuff, and I admire that. I think just in the number of people I've had a chance to meet in this role, certainly that means a lot, and it's an important thing, and I really respect that work that you've done there. The one of the questions that I think sits with me, and is the fact that when I go back and look at the original case here, there's multiple people involved in this situation, and to some level, a level of people pointing at each other for who did what. What happened there, and what was your role in it?
It's hard to explain because I don't know if any of you have ever drank to excess to where you're like, you're not all there. And that's not a cop out, being forward here. As this was going on, we were at a house party and everybody had been drinking, getting high, doing what they're doing. And it's like throughout the night, I have, only way I can describe it is like pictures. I'll get flashes here and there and I get memories of it, but they're muddled. And do you want me to like go through the whole thing, or do you want me
just in from a high level perspective, what happened there? And what you did, your involvement in it. That's what I'm really.
That's what you wanted. That's what you're getting at.
Yes,
your
involvement.
So me and Junior had a running issue, I guess you'd say, and we had fought a couple times before this, and he had beat me up, and he had choked me, he had blackened my eye. There was no love lost there, I guess you might say. And so I got into a fight with him at the party. I do remember that. I don't even remember the first trip, really. I don't remember it really. The first time we got in that truck, because I had been drinking all day and all night, till that night. And I remember it, but I don't, man. I do remember it. It's like I said, it's like flashes. Because I had a bad habit of drinking and keep drinking till I was like blacked out. Even with my DWI report, you can see I was so drunk, I was talking to someone who wasn't there in the holding cell with me. I thought someone was there. I was talking to them. And that's, like I said, it's not a cop out. I did what I did.
When you say I did what I did, what is that? What did you do?
We did take him, and I do remember everybody carrying him. And I do remember being in this truck, and I told them we should take him home and put him, because they had a lawn, like a whole lawn set up on the deck with like a chair, like you swing almost. And I said, we can put him on there and I'll tell Auntie Bo he's here. But Keith and Morris were afraid of him. And they pushed the issue.
So what did you do?
I helped kill him. I did. I helped take him. And regardless of whatever else, I was in for a penny, I was in for a pound. I helped bring him down there. I did all that. I'm not trying to hide from it. You know, now as far as did I kill him? I don't remember. When I do remember Morris given like this, and Keith says I did, but I don't remember it. I don't remember it.
So
Not like that. It's like flashes, like I said. But I did it, man. I'm not saying I didn't.
and we say I did it, you mean you stabbed him as well?
I believe so, but I don't remember it, man. Like I said, I fell asleep in that truck, you know, and they set it on fire with me in it. Now, whether they meant to or not, Keith says he didn't, but I don't know if I believe that. You know, and
So-
I
I'm sorry, go ahead.
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, sir. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're fine. I just wanted to walk through some of these questions I have. So you had, I don't know, I guess a rough go when you got sent to prison, and not just in Minnesota, but in a couple other places that I recall. Talk about that. Like, what you struggled might be a kind way of saying some of the things that happened when you got incarcerated. Talk about kind of that journey and that leads you to where you are today.
Dennis Pendleton and Robin Pendleton and Jesse Sanders and Chris Sanders, them were all my older cousins, and they were all GDs. They were all folks. So I've followed along in their footsteps. You know what I mean? And I thought, you know, because I didn't have anybody else around, I guess. And that's who I looked up and held to. And when I got to prison, I kind of inherited all of their old beefs and grudges. Same with my dad, you know, because he's been in Stillwater, Oak Park, and Brush City, and Faribault, and you know, I inherited all his old beefs and grudges and his bad blood that he's had with people, and it just followed me. I can go more into it, but everywhere I went, I got you know, pursued, hounded by these native mob guys. That's just, and I guess my dad had beat one of them out of a bunch of money, someone named Red Elk, and they pressed the issue on me saying, you got to pay that because you're from Lower Sioux. We know you get per capita. We know you get that money, so you need to pay that and make us right. And I'm like, first of all, I don't get that money. I don't get nothing from nobody. And even if I did, I'm not going to pay my dad's debt because once you pay them, they'll never leave you alone. That's the way it goes. They're always, you know, and it's so they kept pressing the issue on that. It would not leave me alone. And I've tried And I'll keep trying to make an understanding, especially now because I've quit gangbanging about 5 years ago. You know, I did the modified monitor program here, and I just want to be left alone. So I think that that's kind of how that goes, though, because Dennis and Robin killed one of them, and now they hound every Pendleton that comes in the system, whether it's Big Rob Pendleton, my dad, Alan Pendleton, etc.
So let me just ask this: Could you come back to Minnesota safely today?
I don't know. I'm not 100. I don't know.
Could you come back to Lower Sioux safely?
That I could. Yes. That I believe I could.
What makes you say that?
Because I've reached out through my brother Darren, who's down there, and my sister-in-law Miranda, who he's married to. She's a secretary for our tribe, and through them and through Lisa Jarley and other people I speak to from there, I've kind of felt out, you know. And I've talked to Stacy Pendleton, Mari Pendleton, and Jill Pendleton, and the victim was also their uncle, right? And Lisa Pendleton, and I said, you know, does anyone have hard feelings? You know, if so, tell them I apologize. And if they want to talk to me, I'll call them if they want that. But I'm not going to unless they ask for it. And I'm trying to make amends here. I've given the best years of my life to the penitentiary. I don't know what else to do. And I'm trying, you know. And so I believe through through them and asking them to talk to people, and my grandma Joan as well. She's a real respected elder down there. And I've asked her, and she said, "No, Jeffrey, if you come home, everything will be okay." So that's kind of how I get that feeling.
So do you think that you have both participated in and demonstrated the kind of change that indicates that you are ready to use your words, take life as life presents itself?
Yes.
What's the evidence for that? Make the case for that? It's not clear to me. I understand you want that. I understand that there are people who, you know, who are comfortable, but what makes that compelling? What is it that you've done, that the steps that you have specifically taken to demonstrate that you are a fundamentally, not partially, and you know, again, we're not expecting perfection. You said I'm not perfect, but I, you know, what I hear in some of what you're saying is some, you know, some of the things that motivated you to do what you did, or that what people are telling you. But I have not heard you kind of make a case for the changes that you've made, and just for me, I just got to say that that's really important. And so,
Okay.
make the case.
I've gave up, you know, the gang life. I did this 2-year program here. It's called Modified Monitored. They keep you honest, you know. If you're playing, they won't graduate you. And I did it, man, and I really mean it. I even covered up my gang tattoos, you know, and I really am serious about that. And I want to do that, man, to for my family, because they're what's important now. You know, that's how I feel about it. And I've quit drinking. I haven't drank in 2.5 years, 2 years or something like that. And I've been going to this smart recovery, this class, and I go to AA every time I feel like drinking. I've the other thing I did, I talked to Matt about this. So we moved to this new facility, and they have 8-man rooms and 2-man rooms. And as a lifer, someone who's been down a while, you can ask for a 2-man room, or you can be like alone, right? And I specifically asked to live in an 8-man. I specifically asked, since we've been here for 2 years now, because I need to learn how to be around people and how to deal with them. And I really, that was a lot for me to go from not having any cellies to only having one to now having 7, to where I have to live with, and these 7 different personalities I have to learn to mesh with. And I've done it, and I've made it work. Do we get on each other's nerves? Sure. We're 8 men in prison. Yeah. But I've learned how to develop those people skills, and I did it on purpose for this, so that I would know how to deal with people. I know it's like a muscle. If you don't use it, it gets weak. So
when was your last discipline there?
I want to say like 1.5 years ago, something like that. It was about 1 year ago. I got for pockets, for making pockets in my pants. That besides that though, it's been a while since we were in Draper, right? Since we're at the point. Yeah, it's been quite some time, couple years, 2.5 years since I've had like a big write-up, we want to call it. But I've had like, that's the only one I can think of is for like altering clothes, because I wanted some pockets.
Right. And so is the desire to change, has that been driven by the fact that in more recent times that the opportunity that is before you today, or does it come from somewhere else?
I'd say when I was about 29, 30, I had life got to be too much, man. Just too much stress. I couldn't, and I felt like my heart was broken. And I had a mental health crisis. And my dad died, my stepdad, excuse me, not Jeff Sr., but Ronald. And he died of a heart attack. So he died like overnight. And I didn't get a chance to say goodbye to him. And it just really messed me up. And I just said, I can't keep living like this. I got to do something else, and thank God that mental health woman in Oak Park Heights helped me. She saved my life. She helped get me on the right meds, and started to sleep again. And I thank God every day for her, man. And I just said, man, this is getting to be too much. Like I said, I quit banging in 2020, in like March of 2020, long before that legislation or whatever, because I got tired of that negative lifestyle, the self-destructive over and over. the same thing, the backbiting, the fighting, the drug debts, the this, the that. Everybody in my business, and then me having to, I just got grown out of it, I guess. And had I known all these little nuances and the fine print, I would have never joined a gang. But the OGs don't tell you that, because they know better, but they don't tell you that, because then they can't control you. And that's why one of my goals, if you don't mind, I'd like to say, one of my goals is to have a youth gang crime prevention program. Because I don't want the kids, the youth on my reservation to emulate us and to look up to us. Like we did, like me and Robin did to the older ones. I don't want them to do that for us. I want them to more or less pity us and to not do what we've done. And I'll tell them, go join the army. Go do something else, man. Be a fireman. Be an EMT like my brother Darren. That's cool. Being with your family and raising your children. That's cool, bro. Sitting in the joint, being miserable. That's not cool. You know what I mean? And that's one of my goals I got wrote down on here I wanted to share with you. And doing a Lakota language revival program that I've read about in the Lakota Times. And so I can learn my language to be more fluent in it. And personal fitness, trainer stuff down on my reservation, because diabetes and obesity is a real problem. And just stuff like that, man. These are goals that I have, so if that makes sense. And
Other members have questions for Mr. Pendleton before we go to Mr. Emerson?
Did I understand you, Mr. Pendleton, to say that you don't know if it would be safe for you to return to Minnesota?
I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't know. To be honest, I think if you bring me back, I'll probably have problems.
You'll
But
what?
I'll come back. I'll probably have problems. But I'll come back and I'll try. And I'll go and I'm gonna do what you say, what you want me to do. I promise you that. I don't break my word to nobody. I'm gonna do what you tell me to do. But I'm only one man and I can't control nobody else.
So you're talking about returning to the Minnesota prison?
That's what I mean. Yeah,
As
that's what I
opposed to
thought you
Minnesota.
meant. Yeah, I'm sorry. That's what I thought you meant. Excuse me. But yeah, if I come back and I go home, I was telling Matt this, I'll go out of my way to avoid people and situations, I really will. My life's more important, and I will not squander my life. Not never again. No. Oh no. I can't look my people in the eye. I can't look them in the face and tell them I'm gonna hurt you again. I did this, or you know what I mean? I can't do that again.
Do
And
you have any reason to believe that the family members of the victim have or would forgive you?
From what I've been told through other people that have mutual friends and mutual acquaintances and things, I believe they would, because a lot of them have been in prison, and I'm not saying that's right, wrong, or whatever. I'm just saying that a lot of them, they understand, and the old saying, time heals wounds, and I've talked to my grandma Joan, and I And I told her, Grandma, I'm so sorry. I don't know. Words can't make it okay. Will you tell Auntie Carla I'm sorry? And she relayed that to her, you know, and that I want to make it okay. I can do 1,000 years in here and I can say I'm sorry 1,000,000 times, but I can't bring them back.
Thank you, Mr. Pendleton. Mr. Pendleton, I have a question. What about CD treatment? I know you said you haven't had a drink in 2 years, which is really great, but what do you feel like you need chemical dependency treatment in order to make it outside?
I am an alcoholic. Let me start out saying that. I'll own it. You know, but I'm not a drug addict. You know, that's the one's about as bad as the other. Alcohol is probably worse, man, especially for Indians. But I'm gonna say this. I'll go to treatment. I want to go to treatment. I want to look my alcoholism in the eye and tell it no more. And, you know, my mom, like I said, and my dad were bad drug addicts. And so were a lot of other people in my family. So I never did hard drugs. Even in here, I mean, I stay away from that because it causes too much problems. You know, so I'm not, so if that makes sense. But alcohol, I think is a little bit easier beast to keep control of than say heroin addict, right? And I can do it. I know I can. And I want to do treatment. I've asked Matthew for help. Told him, look, bro, I'm a drunk and I know I gotta do right. I know I gotta go to treatment and really mean it, you know. So yeah, that's where I'm at with that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions before we go to Mr. Emerson? Mr. Emerson, thank you so much for being here today and for being a supporter to Mr. Pendleton. I just want to open a floor up to you to provide whatever comments you would like to make.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. Yeah, I've been working with Jeffrey for about 2.5 years now. And I've shared some of my journey through 12 years of sobriety. And it's amazing how just having 15-minute phone calls periodically over 2 years can really help a person. And so I've had an opportunity to witness changing and thinking. He had his head on pretty solid when I first started talking to him. And it's just amazing to see just the future and the possibilities that he's explored since he's had the opportunity to look at the FMLR review. So that's one piece. And I can say that from listening to our conversations over the last few years, there has been no comments of, man, I can't wait to go have a drink when I get out of here or anything like that. And it's been completely positive, completely talking about how can we support family, how can we change, right? And what can we do to be successful when we step out of this place if he ever gets a chance? And listening to Jeff, it was hard for me while you were asking him questions because I wanted to interrupt and be like, Jeff, tell him about this, tell him about that, because we've had so many conversations. And the bottom line here, I think, in my opinion, after listening to him periodically over the last 2 years, I believe he's ready for some type of safe transition. And as you heard from Jeff's comments, the question is, what is a safe transition? And I think that a safe work release program is definitely, something to look at. My housing, I know for a fact that when it comes to the concerns related to gang violence, if he was to enter one of our housing programs with intensive outpatient, it's realistic to say that that would be an excellent stepping stone where he wouldn't have to engage in scenarios that involve gang violence. And if there was something to arise, myself and the other staff that I have would absolutely be able to rise to that challenge to address that issue in the community in a safe way. And so that opportunity to heal in the community, I look at as kind of exciting because we can really make a change. And also, there's in the Twin Cities, there's things like healing circles and restorative justice practice engagements that our organization is connected to, so we can have those safe spaces if there was an opportunity to address some of that historical gang trauma and violence in a safe community setting, which I think would be amazing. And so I don't want to add too much more. I think that's a good place to start. If there was any questions for me, I did want to open the floor for that as well.
All right, thank you. Anybody have questions for Mr. Emerson? Right. Thank you so much for being here today. We appreciate it, and it's helpful to just hear your experience over the last several years with him. Mr. Pendleton, before I close this portion of the review and turn to board discussion and deliberation, I want to provide one last opportunity for you to provide whatever input or statements you would like to the board before we break into that deliberation.
When I had my pre-board, I guess you'd call it, like a month ago, and he asked me, can you describe yourself in 3 ways? And I said, I'm honorable. I'm not a liar. If I give you my word, I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. I promise you that. And, I love my family with all my heart. And for them, I'll do right. And I just want to say that I'm embarrassed and I'm ashamed of what I've done. And I got to live with it. And I want to try to make things right with my family and my community. And I want to get up every day and put my right foot forward and know that nothing can be taken for granted, because it's not lost on me that I should never leave here. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for that. And at this time, I'm going to close this portion of the review.
Excuse me, Paul.
Yeah.
I've come in late. May I ask 2 questions before you get to discussion?
Yep.
You may have covered it already, and forgive the
That's right.
forgive the replication. Where in your plans comes contact or resolution or connection with your family in their living area or their community? Has that been addressed so far?
Are you asking me? Or are you asking?
The whole group basically is your connection with your family or renewal of that connection, has that been addressed in the discussion so far?
You wanted to answer that? Go ahead, Mr. Pendleton.
What exactly?
He's asking, describe for us describe the reconnection that you've had and the conversations you've had with your family about the possible return.
Oh, just I've spoken to them, and especially my grandma Joan. She's 89 years old, and I call her every week, and I her and I've spoken to her and my dad's brothers, Uncle Brian, Uncle Russell, and I've spoken to them, and you know, I just told them, you know, where I'm at with this, and that, you know, I've apologized, and I've asked them, for help, to help me if you guys see fit to let me go home, to help me reintegrate with our family, because a lot of them I don't know. I don't know them, especially the younger ones. I've never met them, and but my brother Darren, and he's an EMT and a fireman. He's a fire chief for Martin. And my sister-in-law, Miranda, she's a secretary for our tribe. And I've spoken to her at length about this. As being a secretary, she knows everybody because she deals with, those kind of in-house issues and stuff. And she's had a chance to speak to different people, Nicole Berry and Roger Berry and all them, and just, and to my auntie Carla, of course, and that's the feeling I'm getting from what they're telling me.
Thank you. I guess the other follow-up question to Mr. Emerson and to yourself, what are the resources, or who else would you trust to address, to go and deal with your family and deal with maybe some of the issues of a release that still may be evident? What resources do you have, or Mr. Emerson, would you have available? Go ahead.
Well,
Let
I
me,
can for that.
Go ahead, Matt. I'm sorry.
So Jeff, when he is back in the community, he will have access to a peer recovery specialist, as well as, which is a person to go along for conversations related to reentry and substance use disorder situations in his home community, as well as I was recently invited by Jeff's family down to the Lower Sioux community for an event, at which point he does have, like he mentioned earlier, the secretary of the tribe, which is one of his relatives, along with others that are there to mitigate those conversations and to support that transformative change. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, like I said, my grandma Joan, she's kind of our matriarch, if you will. I've spoken to her at length about seeing Auntie Carla and having a pipe ceremony and having and doing it and trying to do it that way, and because all healing starts with ceremonies. That's something that I was taught, especially with a lot of veterans that come back from wars and things. They'll go in the Inipi, the sweat lodge, and it helps them like to deal with PTSD and things like that. And so that's where I'm at with it. But I want to do everything appropriate, right? I don't want to do nothing wrong, but I want to, in a good way, with a good heart, I want to make amends, if that makes sense. So I'm
Thank you
trying,
very much.
really am.
Appreciate what you're saying. Thank you.
Okay. With that, I'm going to close the discussion and open it up, close the review and open it up now for discussion among the board members and potential courses of action.
One question I
Yeah.
have is there a mandate someplace within the department that we have chemical dependency treatment? Because I read the conundrum of having Minnesota approve a Utah-based program, and that being a problem. But is there a mandate to go through that treatment in all these incarcerated people?
There is a directive or a desire to have that, and we would accept treatment from an out-of-state provider. That's
Thank you.
not a question.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts from members? let me just say that I think obviously, Mr. Pendleton has had some significant change over the last recent times, and I think that's really a positive sign. And I think if you think about this from the standpoint of progress, the progress has been dramatic from where he started early on. I still have some concerns. Obviously, the chemical dependency thing I think really needs to happen, and I appreciate his desire to kind of demonstrate that he wants to kind of take on almost a bit more leadership and those sorts of things, trying to be a good role model and those different elements. He, as I mentioned, I think, in order to comport with the law, he would have to have this review. The psychological needs to be done. And I think it would be nice if there was a way where we could, see what things might be able to be accomplished in a nearer term and then have that psychological done. At one point, I had thought about the possibility of transferring it back to Minnesota. I don't know that that's a smart idea, just given the circumstances and the honesty that Mr. Pendleton had around the likelihood that could be a challenge, whether that may not be any fault of his own at this stage of the game. But and I just don't want to create a problem. At the same time, some of those factors are good things that are going to need to be dealt with no matter what. And I think this is one of the other challenges, because I think, you can have good solid family support and contact, and then still have the pressures of some of those the vestiges of history that need to get addressed. So just from me, my sense, the psychological needs to be done, the chemical dependency stuff. And one of the things that I'm struggling with a little bit is this whole notion of, I understand that he's accepting responsibility for his role, and I appreciate that. I'm not always hearing as much about kind of his sense of insight into what he may owe the victim by way of the family, the people left behind, by virtue of his actions, and I think that it sounds like that's developing, but may not be fully there yet, and at least I didn't hear that as clearly. So those are just some of the thoughts that I had as I listened to him and as I read through the file.
Really like to see him complete CD treatment in Utah.
Yeah.
I don't think it's beyond the imagination that at some point he returns to Minnesota DOC, because he's going to have to face the Pendletons, whether it's in prison or out in the community, and it might be safer to see what happens here.
Yeah. Yep.
Hey, Paul, this is Jody Nelson. I just also want to affirm Mr. Pendleton's connection culturally, spiritually. He's brought up ceremony a few times, which I think is fantastic and should also be considered part of the resources that he can and has been tapping into. I'd certainly want to support that in any sort of plan. And then I'm also, we're kind of walking around restorative work that's been mentioned. I don't know if in Utah the restorative practice program that you have in Minnesota is available, but I think more specifics about restorative work, and I think family's complicated. When Mr. Pendleton talks about family, there's a lot of family there, a lot of branches of that family. And so what are what's the specific plan about restorative work with some members of that family? And I'm aware of the Berglunds, which is relatives of his that I think are going to be a great resource in terms of spiritual and cultural support. So just want to affirm that.
Thank you.
Paul, could you help me with a little bit of the options? One would be remaining in Utah or beyond the state. And what are the options and the timing for any return to Minnesota for any time or to complete the mandatory minimums that are required?
So, I mean, we, certainly he could be moved. I would agree with Member Brady. There's, that at some point in time that probably is gonna have to be tested. To what extent, we could get the CD stuff done. Here's one of the thoughts I had was, could we ask Utah about the possibility of looking at treatment programming availability in Utah, and what timeline that would be, and in the meantime, also have a comprehensive psychological done, and maybe we would see him and in a matter of maybe it's 16 months, something 18 months. But I don't know how long it's going to take just to get through treatment and some of those sorts of things. But I think it also then gives us a chance also to see him, just hearing this conversation, whether it's the RJ stuff and digging into that a little bit more, and probably some of that may come out of even the CD treatment stuff. But then I think we could look at that possibility of bringing him back at the right location. I think one of the things that the PRT talked about was, if we use our straight custody classification tool today, given some of the things in history that he may come back at a higher level. Now we can override that and move him. I would much rather see him in medium custody, where there is some of the things that are going to be of concern are going to be less of a concern. If we were to bring him back, but I also think it'd be really nice to have that CD stuff done and the psych done. And then, I think for the board, it's an opportunity to see where things are at, and if, moving things forward is better. And that could be coming back for here, getting a little bit of an adjustment, and then looking at some step down possibilities if that's on the table based on what he does.
Thank you. Thank you.
So the action before the board today is, and I would just say this so that Mr. Pendleton can hear it. There is a formal portion of this that the decision is about parole or no parole. And yet the conversation is probably leaning toward, we want to acknowledge the fact that there's progress. At the same time, there are some things that probably all of us feel, or at least I, speaking for myself, feel that need to be done. But I think, the efforts you're making are notable and recognized. So that's kind of what I'm hearing so far. Anybody else have any?
Well, I'll make a motion for no parole, and then with conditions that are decided.
There's a motion to deny parole at this point in time. And is there a second?
Second.
Is motion and a second. Any discussion about the motion on the table? Hearing none. Because we have an online, we'll do it by roll call. Member Brady?
I'm in favor of no parole.
No parole. To Member Larson to the motion of no parole.
No parole.
Member Ramstead?
Agree.
And Member Nelson?
Agreed.
Member Struford?
Agreed.
Schnell votes aye as well. So the motion to deny is there. So the board is denying parole at this stage. I think now the conversation is really around what's the term of continuance and what things would need to be put in place for a next step.
With respect to chemical dependency treatment, if Utah's anything like Minnesota, presumably it's going to be a delay before you can get in. It's not going to just jump right in. And then there's the length of the program. So seems to me maybe we look at a three-year review so that he could complete those and still get his psychological evaluation completed, which I understand could be done out there. is that right?
Out there, or we can do it remotely here as well. Other,
I'd prefer a 1 year continuance. I don't think punishing somebody for 3 years for our lack of being able to provide treatment, then I would think that he should do treatment out in the community. I say 1 year.
I would concur on the shortened time frames for the next review. I think the question before me at least is what's available in Utah? And if it's not available in Utah, particularly the psych exam and the CD treatment, I would like to see that available in Minnesota or be considered that and be provided in Minnesota at the next review within a year's time. So the first question is I think it's all needed. It's all essential that CD and the CD and the psych exam needs to be provided. I think the question right now is where. And I'd be leaning for wherever that could be done in the most expedient way, and what would we trust? What would we say is an adequate completion? So 1 year is where I'm with Jody right now.
right. I believe Mr. Callahan from Utah is there. Mr. Callahan, any thoughts on this?
Oh, he's there muted. Hold on. John might have to.
Mute. Hang on one second.
You're like a 6, 7.
Now we can hear you.
Okay, well, we have a full residential substance use program here. It varies from like a general outpatient program that is counseling and some packets to a intensive inpatient program all the way up to the residential. It's individual based, so it could be from 3 months all the way up to a year, just depending on what Jeffrey needs. And I would have to defer to the director of the program to see exactly, but I do know he was assessed when he came to Utah as a general outpatient type program, which would be 3 to 6 months.
Okay. And how, from an availability standpoint, is that something that can be accessed fairly quickly or not?
Like I just said, I would have to get with the director over the program to see how quickly we could get him started into that.
Okay.
Something else, we do psychological evals here through our board of pardons. That would be something that I could look into to see how quickly I could get that accomplished here also.
Yeah, we can coordinate with you on that just through, we have to make sure there are certain statutory elements that we have to meet here that we just want to make sure, probably would be no problem. But either way, we can work that out either with you all or online. So we can figure that out as we go. That's incredibly helpful. So thank you for that.
Sure.
You know, I'm somewhere in between.
Can I ask a question?
I think that
I'm
was
somewhere in between 3 years and 1 year. Quite honestly, like maybe there's a middle ground that we could agree on.
There is 50%.
Yeah, well, I like what, 18 months or
18
something?
months would be, 18 months would maybe more in that.
I'm just throwing it out.
I would tend to agree with that. Part of the reason for that is I think 12 months may be aggressive just in terms of coordinating it and getting it all done. I think 18 months is probably a little, maybe a little more realistic. That's just my opinion.
I think from a DOC standpoint, we can work with Oregon DOC and see what the availability is based on what their director would say and so forth. And then if worse comes to worse, we could look at a medium custody transfer back to Minnesota, do treatment here. which, still we have some capacity, but we can work on that and plan that, if Utah could not get it done in that time frame. So, we're gonna, anything?
I was just gonna comment that he's gone through a lot of change within 2 years. And having a little longer period, like another 2 years, would give us a chance to see how permanent that transition and transformation has been. So rather than going at 18 months, I could see 2 years being a good compromise.
Yeah, I gotta, I'm gonna back up again though and say 1 year. I think the proving is in the community.
So probably the best way to address this is through a motion, and that way we can take board action in terms of that, and to move a continuance term, and then what conditions would be included in that term of continuance. So somebody willing to make a motion?
I move we continue the matter for 2 years. Did you want conditions?
Yeah, just add some of the core conditions.
During that time, that opportunities for treatment, chemical dependency treatment, as well as the psychological evaluation, be pursued in the Utah system if it's available there. So the condition would be a successful completion of those two
things. Okay. So it's a motion for a 2-year continuance with a treatment completion requirement and satisfaction of the psychological evaluation requirement grounded in Minnesota law. There's a motion on that. Is there a second?
I would second that.
So a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Yeah, point of information. That's 2 years from this date, so we're talking 2026. That motion does not say for us to hear that emotion, the 2 programs or the 2 recommendations have to be completed. Is that that's sort of my understanding of the motion right now?
Yeah, those would be some of the conditions. I would say that as a general term, we do include in most instances the expectation of remaining discipline-free, and I think for me it would be nice to explore some restorative justice options. At least would be things, but I wanted to at least have the motion include the core items that the board felt were that continuance term was conditioned upon.
I think the restorative justice is particularly appropriate because what he has had thus far has been through his 89-year-old grandmother's representations. It's not as direct as it could be.
Yeah.
So automatically a date would be set today for the next review. Is that correct?
That's correct. It would be, if it was 24 months, it would be seen in September of 26. Mr. Pendleton, during this, there's a point of clarification, but we don't debate or discuss your thoughts about this at this stage of the game. So is there a point of clarification you'd like to make?
The substance abuse thing and the psychological review, we could have that done in a year.
Well, okay, so that right now, this is going to be our discussion on how long this is going to be, because I just want to make that clear. So we're just you know, this, at this stage of the game, some of that stuff is really grounded in the board's decision. And go from there. So, there is a motion and a second. At this point in time, we'll do a roll call vote. To the motion, member Bray, yea or nay?
No,
Member Larson,
Yes.
member Remstead,
yes,
member Nelson,
No,
member Struford,
No,
and Schnell. Schnell's going to vote no as well. So we have four votes no, 3 yeas. Yeas. So the motion does not prevail. Is
It's
it
4 and 2.
4 and 2?
okay, I'd like to make a motion, that we continue in 18 months.
A motion for continuous 18 months, same conditions.
Same conditions plus restorative.
I'll second that.
Okay, there is a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to roll call vote. Member Bray,
Yes,
member Larson,
No.
member Ramstead,
no,
member Nelson,
Yes,
member Struford,
yes.
Schnell votes yes. We have 4-2. The motion prevails. So, Mr. Pendleton, what will happen is the board's action is an 18-month continuance, conditioned upon that in successful completion of substance use disorder treatment. And we will work with the folks at Oregon DOC to work through that. We'll also talk about the psychological evaluation that needs to happen and whether that gets done there or by Minnesota DOC staff remotely. We'll work through that. The board would also like to see you participate in some level of restorative justice programming options that may be available to you there. And then as a standard, there is an expectation generally that you remain discipline free. It becomes really important as you come back in to the board that that we don't see ongoing behavioral issues at the facility. So that's the decision as it is today. Any questions about that?
No, okay. I'll do what you say.
Okay.
We'll get on that to try to get me in there, and however you guys want to do it, I'm going to do what you want me to do. Promise I will.
Yeah, one of the things you said, you talked about being honorable, truthful, and loving of your family. And I think we're going to take you at your word. You're going to do your part here and continue that positive motion progress as we go forward. And so I wish you the best of luck. And our staff from Minnesota will be in contact with the folks there to work through the details of this with you and go from there.
Okay, thank you very much. And do we have restorative justice stuff here? I think
We'll have conversations with your staff.
Yeah, we'll work with staff there and just kind of figure that stuff out. I think, one of the things we will, as we do some of this stuff, release planning will become a factor. And there's a range of things for us to work through. But as you get closer to that 18 months, which goes faster than you might imagine, really being thoughtful about that. And in particular, I would just tell you, I think the more you can identify areas of potential risk, that's really helpful. Because we heard from you the areas of places where you have good support, which is really important. But if you can't begin to identify areas of risk and challenge in terms of a transition, that the more you can do that, the more you can begin to prepare for how to manage those situations. That makes sense?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Pendleton. I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for everybody for your time, and I wish you well, and we'll be back in a year and a half.
Sounds good. Look forward to it.
Okay, take
Good
care.
luck.
I know.
Take care, everybody.
An year and a half has passed, so we are going to watch his second parole hearing. But I did an unpacking here, and I thought I did a decent job. So if you're curious to do a deep dive into the case, to learn more about the actual crime, stick around, watch the old Mandoo with the smaller beard. Let me know in the comment section if you prefer the smaller beard or the longer beard. And yeah, if you don't, if you just want to skip ahead, again, there are timestamps in the description. You can jump to the future. You don't need to listen to Mandoo yabber yabber, and we can jump into his next hearing. Let's see you. I'll see you there. I'll see you here or there. I'll see you there.
All right, and they said, let's kick the ball down the road for 18 months. I mean, the decision makes sense to me. I think they did the right thing. Yeah, I think, right? I mean, what else would it be? 18 months, have another hearing. You don't see victims coming up here, and it's not like you're putting them through it. This case was kind of a little different, but hey, I got to tell you, we did. So this hearing, it took place on September 10th of 2025. I'm only getting to it now, July 10th. Of 2025. So he's got like 8 more months. As the board member said, time moves quickly, and we will cover it when he comes back in that time frame, and we will put it in the return of playlist. For those of you who are newish to the channel, not familiar, there is a playlist where we keep track of the inmates when they come up for a second hearing, or maybe they get revoked after getting parole. Check out that playlist. It's my personal favorite playlist. I find it to be the most intriguing as we watch. Sometimes we watch people over the course of 5 years. I mean, this channel's only been around for about 3 years, but we get hearings back 5 years and we play them all for you. And I find that to be fascinating. So anyways, you know, it was kind of like an uneventful hearing. You have the inked up face, you're expecting something. It's interesting, totally unique that he's being caged in the state of Utah, although he's incarcerated in Minnesota. But it seems that he's such a problem child, or he has so many enemies that they actually ship him out to Utah. I didn't know that they did that. Did anyone know that they did that? You know, they have some contract with Utah to house him there, and they somehow got there. That's interesting to me. I mean, you would think they'd just put him in PC and that would be it, but we'll go over the appeal so we can actually get the facts of what happened. I'm in a different studio right now, so that's why it's a little bit, call it a studio. I'm traveling, so I'm using a different place, so it's like I'm going fuzzy in and out of here. But overall, I'd call it a pretty bad parole hearing. I mean, it's not, we've seen worse, but it's like bad in the sense of like, well, you know, it took him, it couldn't even get it out of him. What did you do? What did you do? What did you do? What did he do? Not to make an excuse, but I was drunk. I don't remember. And I'm reading through the case while I'm reading this. Like, yeah, this relative, I guess, was stabbed like a dozen times, burnt on fire. He's trying to make it out like he had no idea. He was too drunk. He's partially part of the victim because he was in the car when they lit it on fire. And, you know, don't worry, they'll put him in a program, so he'll come back and maybe he'll be able to address it a little bit. But let's just go through the facts. And it's you know, it's a long appeal, but we sat here a long time watching this hearing, so let's go through it. Pretty amazing to see him, right? Before he's inked up and now when he's inked up. It's crazy. On the evening of September 23rd, 2004, who else, when they hear 2004, does not think that it was 21 years ago? It's just weird. So weird. How quickly times moves. And this is what so many don't. It's like, well, we gave him a 20 to life sentence. We take care of putting the worst of the worst. And 20 years, it comes by in a second. Here we are.
And he didn't get a 20 to life. I'm just giving the example of what we hear all the time in the news. 20 to life. On the evening of September 23rd, 2004, appellant attended a party at SW's house. A number of other people were present, including Vernon Jones, Keith Crow, Morris Pendleton Jr. People at the party were drinking alcoholic beverages and smoking the devil's lettuce. The victim, Robert Berry Jr., arrived later. Berry was in a relationship with the appellant's aunt, and appellant had briefly lived with Berry and his aunt. Appellant's aunt testified that Berry and the appellant did not get along because Berry did not approve of the way that the appellant was running around. Immediately after arriving at the party, Berry began yelling at the appellant. Berry ultimately threw soda bottle at the appellant, who then jumped over a table and began fighting Berry. Berry began to get the upper hand of the fight, and the appellant called for help. Crow restrained Berry while Morris and Pendleton restrained the appellant. At some point during the fight, Berry elbowed Crow, knocking off his glasses. Crow then punched Berry and knocked him unconscious. The appellant was released by Morris Pendleton and began to hit and kick the unconscious Berry. Oh, you're a tough man. Oh, yeah, you're a tough man. Isn't this, this is, the board really needed to not let him get away with, I don't remember. Oh. While hitting and kicking Berry, the appellant screamed, "I hate you," multiple times. During the fight, most of the people at the party left. After the fight ended, everyone remaining at the party except for Berry left in Berry's green Chevy Tahoe truck and drove around with no clear destination. Morris Pendleton drove with Crow in the front seat with him, the appellant Jones WS and AC in the middle seat, and SW and LB in the back. During the trip, some of the people in the car discussed what to do with Berry. The appellant suggested that Berry be placed in the back of the truck and driven home. Morris Pendleton expressed concern that Berry might call the police and suggested that the appellant kill Berry. Okay. And so I just want to make sure. Yeah, the appellant in this case is Pendleton. I just want to make sure I didn't have the appeal of a co-defendant. Sometimes we get that. And by the way, thank you, Sir Richard, for providing this info. This was before Lady Holly was pulling her magic. Expressed concern before the Berry might call the police and suggested the appellant kill Berry. AC testified that the appellant agreed to kill Berry and was acting cocky and arrogant. So, Morris Pendleton expressed concern that Berry might call the police and suggested that the appellant kill Berry. AC testified that the appellant agreed to kill Berry and was acting cocky and arrogant. Now, of course, once you have all people pointing fingers at people, one maybe who really knows, but we're reading this. So let's read it and we'll read it, right? The group returned to SW's house to pick up Berry, who was still unconscious. Crow asked SW for a blanket and a knife. Berry was wrapped in the blanket, and appellant Crow, Morris Pendleton, Jones, and WS carried Berry out to the truck and put Berry in the back of the truck. LB testified that AC opened the house for the group. Morris Pendleton told Crow to tell AC to get in the truck so that AC would not call the police. SW and LB stayed behind and were told by Morris Pendleton to clean up Berry's blood or Morris Pendleton would hurt SW's child. Like, how insane is this entire predicament? It's like they beat up someone to a pulp while he's unconscious. They all say, "Let's go kill him." Like, it's just so insane. I mean, how wasted are you? Like, what type of, like, nothing makes someone do this. It doesn't even make sense. Like, an unconscious man, now you're gonna go kill him? The appellant Crow, Jones, WS, and AC left the truck with Morris Pendleton driving. There was no conversation. I hate how they go from appellant to then calling him the name. It's just confusing. You need consistency. Or are they? And I'm mixing it up. I don't know. Appellant. I mean, I like when they say appellant and then I know it's them. So maybe they're still doing it. Okay.
So Appellant, Crow, Jones, WS, and AC left the truck with Morris Pendleton driving. There was no conversation during the driving, but during the drive about what was going to happen. Morris Pendleton drove the truck down a road to the edge of the Minnesota River. Everyone got out of the truck, and the Appellant, Crow, Jones, WS, and Morris Pendleton took Barry out of the back of the truck and carried Barry down the river. AC remained by the truck and talked to a friend on her cell phone. She could not hear or see what was happening in the river. I guess that they're using initials because they're juveniles and they weren't charged with the crime. The state's medical expert testified that Barry was probably still unconscious when he was carried to the river. At the riverbank, Barry was stabbed 15 times. 15. The only witness to testify about what happened in the river was Morris Pendleton. Morris Pendleton testified that the appellant stabbed Barry more than once, and that while Crow egged the appellant on, nobody forced the appellant to stab Barry. The group returned, so, this is one witness saying that he stabbed him at least once, and, it was like a group thing, like a total, like just barbaric group murder of an unconscious man. The group returned from the river about 10 minutes. It just takes something different to do that. This is not like a normal, this is not normal, right? This is so different. It's so, it's not like in a fight, you pull out a gun, you do, like we hear and have seen so many insane crimes that make no sense. People, they'll kill someone over $10. But to take an unconscious man and to plot and to decide and to drive him somewhere, and then as a unit stab him, why? I mean, where is there even any, like what is that? It's so unrelatable. That's a weird word, but it's like you can't even understand where they're getting, where they're even finding sadistic fun in it. It's an unconscious an unconscious man. Like even a sadistic person would prefer the person be caught. Like what do they? You get what I'm saying? It's just so insane. Morris Pendleton was the first to return to the river, laughing while recounting that the appellant had fallen in the river. Crow came up next and followed by WS. The appellant came up last and, according to AC, was soaking wet. So this fool fell in the river. When the group began to get back into the truck, Morris Pendleton said WS got him good, to which WS responded, "Hell yeah, dog. I'm so tough, man. I'm so tough. I stabbed up this unconscious man, bro." They're such cowards. So many people in prison are absolute cowards. They really are. Bringing guns to fist fights, shooting, beating up old people, harming children. Really, prisons are full of cowards. And then they all pretend to be tough. But they're a bunch of cowards. The group got in a truck and left the area. Morris Pendleton decided that the group should, he's got tattoos on his face. It's like, yo, bro, that guy must be real messed up. Yeah, what's in his jacket? Bro, he's so dangerous. He stabbed to death a man. Wow, that's tough. They were like fighting it out and they were in a knife fight. No, man, the guy was unconscious, passed out, and him and 4 other guys stabbed him. Oh, that's kind of cowardly, no? Yeah, but man, you should have seen him. He was like passed out, bro. Like, imagine like having to explain what's in his jacket. Yeah, man, you should have seen the guy. He was like totally unconscious, and like I took that knife, man. I was like, yeah. And think about this: he was losing the fight to this guy. He was getting his ass whooped by him when he had his boys come in and overwhelm him and get him, So he's just a coward with face ink. They got to get moved to Utah to save his tough, sorry ass. Morris Pendleton, and obviously if he got moved to Utah, most people must have felt that way about him, right? Morris Pendleton decided that the group should set the truck on fire. Everyone, including the appellant, agreed. The group split up, with only Morris Pendleton, Appellant Crow, and AC remaining in the truck. At this point, Morris Pendleton drove to a house to get a can of gasoline. When he got back into the car, he handed the can to the appellant. So here he is, caught in the effing lie. And I wish they would have called him out on it. I don't remember, man. Actually, they say I was in the truck. He should not. He should have been called out. The parole board, and this is where we'd see this in like Louisiana, Mr. Roche, Bonnie Jackson, Mirabella. Now, I think Miss Stapleton. You would have certain parole board members, they take their job a little more seriously. They read these documents. And then when someone lies, they say, no. You weren't in the car. No. Stop talking. Be honest with us. And they don't do that in these hearings. They just don't. It's the strangest thing. Minnesota has been more competent than I expected, but still, when you know what you should be getting, so can handle the appellant. Because remember, he's holding the gasoline. Then Morris Pendleton drove back near the same area by the river where Barry had been taken. AC Crow got out of the truck. Morris Pendleton drove 15 or 20 more feet to set the truck on fire. AC testified that she did not notice if anyone was in the truck when it was set on fire. While the group drove to the river to the truck, the police officer on patrol in a squad car noticed the truck and decided to follow it. Sorry to keep interrupting, but I find it so interesting how policemen sometimes really do just end up pulling over a car with a body in it, or it's people who just committed a heinous murder. It seems to happen often in these cases. It's just like, how does it happen? AC, not knowing it was the police and thinking it was a ride for the group that had been previously arranged, flagged down the squad car. After the squad car stopped, the police officer and AC noticed the appellant fleeing wearing a white t-shirt. During the investigation, a white shirt was recovered from the area and the appellant was seen running. The shirt had blood on it from Barry as well as DNA that cannot be rolled out by being the appellant. This police officer, I'd be terrified. He so easily could have been ambushed and murdered with these nut jobs. Wow. The police questioned Crow, who told the police that the group picked up 3 white guys from Marshall at the casino before the car got stuck in the mud and started on fire. AC agreed with Crow's fabricated story. An officer drove AC and Crow back to the reservation and released them. Oh my God, the officer released them. Like, yeah, okay, we believe the story. You gotta be kidding me. Once AC and Crow were back on the reservation, the appellant walked up to them not wearing a shirt. If this could have been like a real horror movie where they're in the squad car and they all jump on the police officer and kill him. This could have gone south so fast, more than it did. The appellant, AC, and Crow got a ride from the reservation in Glencoe and then Glencoe to Twin Cities. After spending a few hours in Twin Cities, the appellant and Crow and another friend headed north. The appellant and AC, again, remember, he's saying that he was so wasted and he was in the car, but meanwhile, he successfully ran away and then met up with them. It's just a BS story, his entire story, and it pisses me off. The appellant and AC sat, and see, it's so easy to believe someone. Like, yeah, he was a young kid, he was drinking too much, maybe blacked out. No, man. The appellant sat in the backseat during the ride and asked the appellant if they really killed that dude. And the appellant responded that so appellant and AC sat in the back during the ride. AC asked the appellant, our Prince Charming tattooed guy over here, if they really killed that dude. And the appellant responded that he stabbed Barry a grip of times. AC interpreted a grip of times to mean a lot of times. AC also testified that the appellant was in possession of 2 necklaces, which he said had been Barry's. Other witnesses testified that Barry also wore necklaces, and the appellant kept one of the necklaces but threw the other out the window. The appellant also had money with AC, testified the unusual for the appellant, but AC would not be sure whether the appellant had the money before the events. So not only did he murder him, not only did he run away, not only did he brag about murdering him, but he, out of all the other people, was the one who had the jewelry and money. So seems like a ringleader to me, and the one that was in fight with him to begin with. After spending a few days The appellant and Crow went to the lake. There, the group parted. AC and Crow headed to Seattle. The appellant eventually returned to the Twin Cities. On October 7th, 2004, the appellant was still on the run. He called his father in prison. In that conversation, which was recorded by prison officials, the appellant admitted that he was involved in a lot in Barry's killing. The appellant did, however, deny that he actually stabbed Barry. He said that he didn't want to go with the others to the crime scene and that he didn't want to stab Barry. The appellant also denied ever having stabbed Barry, telling his father that Morris Pendleton, put the knife in my hand and told me to stab Barry. I told him I ain't doing it, and then I wiped it and I gave it back to them. So here he is using the same excuse that he said at his parole hearing, and again, I'll say it for the umpteenth time, the parole board needed to have put him to the fire for this. Not just say take a program for victim awareness, right? But it'll be interesting to see in like another 6-7 months if he learns in his program to say, I did it. You know, he had the ability to show a lot of empathy for himself, to cry for himself, but talking about crime, nothing, no empathy, which we see often. It's like a certain personality type disorder or something. I don't know. I ain't diagnosing anyone. I'm just speculating a situation like this. Dr. Grande. Okay. The appellant also told his father that he was passed out in the back of the truck. It's the same story. At the time, Morris Pendleton set the truck on fire and that Morris Pendleton intended to kill him. The appellant said that he jumped out of the truck with his leg on fire and put it out. The driver of the car, however, testified that during the ride and time, the appellant seemed healthy, did not limp, and did not say anything about being hurt. AC also did not see any injuries or burns. This just reemphasizes everything I just said. So you can look at it two ways. One way, maybe he is telling the truth, and that's why it's the same story. Or the other is that, no, he's sticking with his lies. The appellant was eventually indicted on 3 counts of first-degree murder, premeditated murder, intentional murder committed in the course of kidnapping, and intentional blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. I think that's it. We got our full story here. That was a good appeal. Sometimes the appeals are like 2 sentences and they don't sell us anything. That gave us the full picture.
This is Mandoo back in the present again. Remember to comment on the beer, shorter or longer. Well, I'm going to read your comments. Just 10% of you saw this hearing, but I'll read your comments to see what y'all thought on this man before we jump into hearing number 2. So let's go and sort it by top comments. This is whatever YouTube thinks are the top comments. Can you imagine how the family feels that they thought he was convicted for life, and now after 17 years after considerations? I just don't. Yeah, I mean, it's true. This parole board sure makes this complicated. These parole boards should require to ask the family of these monsters if they want to see them back in a very small community. I mean, that's true. Thank you, Mandoo and crew. Thank you for all the work, Mandoo. I don't know why top comments doesn't seem to work. Because these are, unless there just aren't that many comments. You're welcome. You're welcome. The bumbling, stuttering parole board feel offer for Minnesota citizens. And this is more than a year ago. Think about Minnesota citizens now, what they're going through. Holy cow. Spoke about how to help his family for 10 minutes before even bringing up the victim's family. This tells me that he's only concerned for himself. These tears and soft-speaking speech, these people, I don't fall for it. Acting like he doesn't even remember killing the man is disgusting and definitely a cop out of my eyes. I always feel like these killers practice to memorize what to say to the parole board, easily persuaded. I don't care if someone kills another. I think that they should stay in for life. He doesn't deserve to live life freely, and the family with the victim never see his family again. He can cry all day long, but he should rot in prison. Well, how do you think he's going to do in his next hearing? If you watch enough of these videos, you'll notice that one of the papers and pens, they have notes, they read them. I have not really seen that. They paid another inmate to write what they should say. Ever notice that they don't answer the board's questions when they read their speech? I mean, they absolutely, without a question, many hearings are paying other inmates, the jailhouse lawyer or whatever, to write their notes. We see that all the time. With the notes and the pen, I don't know if I've noticed that. If I ever did anything like that, which I wouldn't do unless threatened, I would be so full of pain or remorse that I'd hate myself. Yeah, we don't see empathy a lot in these murders. That's always the thing that sticks out. It's like well, if I was 15 and stupid and with 4 of my buddies and I went in a rage because I was drunk out of my mind, but wouldn't you feel empathy years later? And you don't see that. You just don't see it. Oh my God, he never answers the questions, just talks in circles of the fact that he thinks he can't make it right. Sir, you took a life, nothing you can do. The focus should be on behavioral changes, sustainability. I wish I was a fish. This is forest now, tree. Oh, I wish I was a fish. That's funny. That's random, but that's funny. I mean, I'll take it. I don't think I'd want to be a fish. If I could be an animal, it'd probably be some kind of bird. Thanks, Lady Holly. Yes, Lady Holly is no longer with us. It makes me so sad. But let's all say a prayer for Lady Holly. This was back to the Lady Holly days. I don't know. All Native Americans are predisposed to alcoholism. The only ones who are not alcoholic are the ones who never drink alcohol. It's scientific data. They are very family oriented. The ceremonies he's speaking are spiritual, and that will heal their family. They have their own culture. 7 out of 10 who live on reservations are alcoholics. During the French and Indian Wars, both the English and the French would liquor them up so that they would go on killing sprees. Alcohol is not sold on reservations. It's very sad. The federal government gives them a monthly check and HUD housing. It's reparations for the 1800s. I'm not Native American. I just like history. Well, thank you for this. This came in handy to educate us, which is a good point because upcoming hearing you're going to see is a big point, a big vocal point is about blah 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 blah. A big vocal point for this hearing is going to be about a substance abuse. And he's like, I was 15 years old. I don't have a substance abuse problem. Why should I take any of these classes? So I saw the video, the comment of 5155. I believe he is sincere and has support from the outside. The sad, not with all inmates up for parole, is true test from the start. When he's released, my son is the same age as this young man. My son has been an opioid since 20 years old. My mom was a blah, blah, blah. 15 years ago, like drinking about addiction. I've been sober a couple of decades. Will participate in mine and others' recoveries. Well, congratulations on your soberness, James Millett, and thank you for being a long-time supporter of the Mandoo family. Let's jump in to the next hearing. Okay, ready? All right, let's go.
Thank you. Our records indicate that on September 24th of 2004, Jeffrey Pendleton Jr. and 4 accomplices caused the death of Robert Berry Jr. with intent while committing kidnapping. Mr. Berry was beaten and stabbed and his body dumped in a river. A vehicle along with some of the clothing the subjects were wearing were all burned. About 3 years later, on August 20th of 2007, Jeffrey Charles Pendleton Jr. was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole by Redwood County District Court after having been found guilty of first-degree murder. On September 16th of 2016, Redwood County resentenced Jeffrey Pendleton Jr. to life with the possibility of parole after having been found guilty of first-degree premeditated murder. Due to new legislation regarding individuals who were juveniles at the time of their offense, Jeffrey Pendleton now has the opportunity to be reviewed by the Supervised Release Board after serving a minimum of 15 years of incarceration. On September 10th of 2024, Mr. Pendleton was reviewed by the Supervised Release Board. He was continued for a future review by the board in 18 months. Today's review represents his second review after serving approximately 18 years of incarceration. His original parole eligibility date is October 19th of 2034. Given the changes by the legislature regarding juvenile cases, Mr. Pendleton is eligible to be considered for release as of October 19th of 2019. Thank you. I turn this matter over to the board. Commissioner.
Good afternoon, Mr. Pendleton. How are you today?
I'm okay. I'm getting over the flu, but I'm okay.
All right. That sounds, I hope you're glad you're feeling better. I'd like to start off by asking you to tell the board what it is you'd like to see happen as a result of today's meeting, and go from there.
Okay. Yeah, so what I'd like to see is, I would respectfully ask and see if the board would consider removing the drug treatment directive. And the reason I'm saying that is because I took the Rule 25 ASAM exam along with the psych eval, and it says that I was a low risk, low maintenance outpatient treatment aftercare criteria. So I'm just wondering why we're not going with that and why I have to do it here. And if you would be willing to at least think about that, then that would remove this out of my way. And I'd ask to go to a lower custody level and eventually to work release, something along them lines. And is there any review process for the drug treatment directives? Or is that just something, once it's there and it never leaves? I'm curious about that. I mean, if you're gonna make me do it, I'll do it, but I'm almost 40 years old now and I've never used drugs in my life. It's a little late in the game to start getting high now. I mean, that's just not something I'm gonna do, period. And with all that in mind, I think it's a fair question to ask, why it's being stood on so sternly. And I just ask that you at least consider it, and I've tried it here. I was halfway done with it and I got a diluted UA, and it ruined my life. And the way that works is, so you get UA'd there every week or so. It's kind of an intensive deal, right? And they just show up randomly. It can be 5 in the morning, it can be 10 at night, you don't know. And so I give them the UA, they send it to their lab here. And then about a month later, they come back and say, well, Jeffrey, you had watery urine. So that indicates to us that you're trying to hide drug use. And that's just the way it is. So we're gonna write you up for drug use and you're just gonna have to deal with that. And that's just the way it is. And it's unconscionable to do that to me when I'm trying to get my life back, but they don't care. And it's not a positive drug test, like say for meth or heroin or anything like that. I just want to point that out because they write it up as though it is, but it's not. And I'm back in line to go back over there again. I'm gonna do this. I am. It's just I feel as though the goalpost got moved on me, and it's disheartening and discouraging. But I just ask that you think about that. And I've given you 21 years, 3 months and some change. I think it's like 9 days in this morning. I know you say it's 18 years, but it's more than that. And I feel bad. I really do feel terrible about not getting it done. Like I said, I was halfway there, man. And it's terrible. I don't even know how to explain it, man. Besides from what I just told you, that's exactly the way it went. I'm not adding anything and I'm not subtracting anything. I'm telling you exactly the truth. And you can read the write-ups and see it for yourself, man. And I just ask that you, take that into consideration before you make any decision today.
So, I just want to make sure that the record is clear that, you are not written up for positive drug use, and you're absolutely right about that. There was, however, this dilution that was noted in testing, and that you were not removed from the program. Is that also accurate?
Yes, but see, the thing is, so they have this, they're like, well, you can stay your first ones, you can stay, Jeff, but you're gonna have to do this 42 days of what they call RRG, right? Which is a separate sanction from disciplinary. So in addition to that, and with that is they take your electronics, they turn your phone off, they make you sign in and out of the section, they move you up to the front by the door or by the desk, and they make you write a 2-page paper, like an essay, taking accountability for what you did. And you have to read it to the whole unit, right? At this meeting we have every Wednesday in the chapel. And I told them, well, the problem with that is that I know I didn't do nothing wrong. And you're exploiting me. That's what this is. I mean, we can call it something else if you want, but that's what you're doing to me. And you're forcing me to write a paper saying I'm hiding drug use when I don't even use dope. I've never have. So it's unconscionable for you to force that upon me. And I get, some guys do play the let's get high and flush game. I understand that, but not me. That's not my thing. So what about me? And they're like, well, I don't know what to tell you, Jeff. You just got to do what you got to do. And that's the way it is. And I said, well, what about the next one? Because you can only have 2 dilutes or 2 positives there, and then they throw you out. Anyway, so their reply was, well, I don't know what to tell you, Jeff, because I asked them, I said, well, what's the formula? Tell me exactly how I go about this so this doesn't happen again. Help me out. And they said, well, I don't know what to tell you, man. It's just something you got to deal with. And that's their stance.
Okay. You made a comment, I think, just a minute ago, saying, look, I've given you 21 years. Just talk about that. I'm trying to get a sense of what that means and that kind of stuff.
I mean, I'm not sure. I'm wondering why, because it seems like almost, I think it's 1,000 days and 1,005 days or something I did in jail. It seems like that's discounted, like that didn't happen or something. And we're starting from when I got to St. Cloud, and this is my 18 years or whatever. And I'm like, just, that mattered to me. I had to do that time there. And I just don't understand why that gets said that way.
Can you just describe why you're doing time? Just because I'm trying to make sure, where the accountability lies here. Is it on us that you've given us 21 years? I mean, where is the accountability side of this equation?
Oh, I mean, I don't understand. What do you mean?
I'm asking you that question because I'm confused by who you gave 21 years to. I mean, I don't care about how much, the jail credit. I mean, 21 years, 18 years, whatever number you want to use. What are you being held accountable for by the system?
Oh, so you're saying that it doesn't matter how much, it just matters that I'm accountable for.
No, I'm asking what it is that you are being held to account for.
For aiding and abetting first-degree murder during the course of kidnapping.
Okay, so it's somehow the message, the way it was communicated, it almost sounded like you were owed something. And again, And so I'm not sure what that is, but that's how I came across.
No, I mean, you don't know me anything. You can keep me here for next 1,000 years if you want, Paul, but that's not what I'm saying is that the way I took that was, well, we don't start counting, Jeff, until you get here. And everything before that doesn't really matter.
I
That's
don't
the way
think we're saying that at all. Just so you know, I don't think that's what we're saying.
Okay.
Let me just ask this question. So, you raised the question, like, hey, would you guys take a look at dropping this directive? And you had cited a number of reasons for why that directive could or should be dropped. You indicated that you were halfway through the program, absent the issues here. Can you talk a little bit about what if anything you gained from the treatment program?
I did like the seminars. I liked teaching seminars. I liked the community. I liked the positivity of that. A lot of it was kind of hard for me to relate to be honest, because a lot of the treatment stuff is focused more on methamphetamine and Suboxone and fentanyl abuse. And I don't have that issue, but it did help me to empathize with them more, if that makes sense, to kind of see things from their point of view, people that are struggling with that. And I did get some good stuff out of that. It wasn't all doom and gloom. It was very rigid though. It was a ton of rules. And I bent over backwards to follow every single one of them. And it seemed like that just wasn't good enough.
Okay. I have no additional questions. Other board members?
Mr. Pendleton, I had a question about the UA. The one that I'm looking at right now is for creatine. Did you test positive for anything other than creatine?
No, ma'am. No, it says something in there too about gravity levels, right? And your low gravity and all that. But no, that's all it is.
And do you take creatine for muscle building? It's not a fun substance. I'm just wondering why they would test it for anything other than medical.
Yeah, I actually had to look that up. I was like, it says something about creatinine being in there's some technical term for it, to be in your urine. And
well, yeah, kidney disease can cause it, as can supplements for weight building or
right, absolutely. No, they don't sell that to us here. They do sell whey protein and other supplements and things, but they don't sell that. And I don't know exactly how that all works, but they write it intentionally like that to make it look like, scientific or whatever. And so they aren't just saying, well, you're getting a write-up for water UA, Jeff. You know what I mean? I think that's their angle or whatever.
Okay, I just want to clarify that. Thank you.
Yes.
Other questions?
Yeah, Mr. Pendleton, besides your frustration with the substance use treatment, what is it? I guess I am still curious to know, what is it you're hoping for from this hearing in terms of where you're going, what you're going to do, kind of the future?
Well, like I said, I'd like some kind of structured step down program or something. And, I'm trying here, man. I really am. And it just seems like the goalpost keeps getting moved and, stuff like that. It's so discouraging, but I'm gonna do it. If you say I gotta do it, then I'm gonna do it. But, I have to ask. My sister-in-law, Miranda, she's our tribal secretary, and she was telling me that we do have outpatient treatment on the reservation and inpatient. It's called, New Paths, I believe it's called. And, I could do it. I could do it there. I mean, I don't think you're gonna do that, but I have to bring it up. And, that's just kind of where I'm at with it right now.
Thank you.
Questions or?
Go ahead. Can you hit the button, Don? Yep, there you go.
I've learned how to do this yet. I've been impressed with the responses from the leadership programs you've been in. Particularly, let's see, the Smart Recovery.
Yeah.
The connection you have with your father, your sister-in-law. I mean, there's people who are applauding what you've accomplished. I also understand your disgust and your despair with the issue of exploitation. What do you have to continue to work with exploitation? How's that going to be overcome from your side?
I said this in jest, but I guess I mean it though too, is like I told Lieutenant Kaufman, I said, what do you expect me to do? Do you want me to just lay in bed for the next 6 months and sip water from a bottle cap on the off chance that you're going to decide to UA me again today? He's like, oh, I don't know, Jeff. I don't know what to tell you. You just got to deal with it. I was like, well, if I have to, then I'm going to. But it's unreal to me. And I talked to Miss Carrie Bennett, and she's been talking to administration here about this, because this isn't just an issue for me, right? They wrote up a whole bunch of people and turned their lives upside down with this. It's not just me. There's a whole bunch of guys that got kicked out of that program for these diluted UAs. And they're aware of it, in other words, and they're looking at solutions for it. And but like I said, I'll just go back and just push through it if I have to and navigate it, I guess. I don't know what else to say. And like I said, I'm sorry, man. I'm trying here. I'm doing the best I can. And it just felt so wrong for them to do that to me. And I asked them, man, you guys don't have to do this to me. You're gonna take all my stuff or something I didn't do. Well, Jeff, if we don't do it for you, then we can't. Then we have to do this for everyone else too.
So the obstacle is the urine test, or the results of that test indicating there's some dilution. You've got the wherewithal and you've got the capacity to go into that program and give it a try.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
But the energy is going to maybe a very, very important obstacle right now with this test, right?
Yeah. And yeah, you're right. And I guess I was just so upset at the time that I just couldn't believe this was happening.
So where are we agreeing right now?
That I just need to go and do it and just get it over with. Right. And I think just push through it, I guess, is kind of where you and I are agreeing on it.
In other words, you're saying you think you can get something worthwhile from the substance abuse treatment.
I wouldn't say that.
I think that's important, though. Would we agree on that? I don't want you wasting your time. You don't want to waste your time.
I would say that I don't feel I need it. And that I would be taking up space for someone who really does. That being said, I did enjoy teaching seminars and helping guys as far as like, I told them, you know, I helped 3 different guys I helped. I said, if you guys start working out and you come work out with me, I'll show you how to do this stuff. And this will give you a positive outlet. So you don't have to look for dough. You don't have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
You can do this instead. And once you start doing this, you won't want that.
I see your energy shift. I see your hope, your sense of accomplishment when you talk about being a leader, right? Am I seeing it right?
Yeah. And I like to help people, man. Giving something back. You know, I guess that's the way to play it, right? Arnold, someone who I like a lot, who I look up to, Arnold Schwarzenegger, talks about that. You tear down your mirrors. Don't always be self-involved. Always make time to give something back to someone else who needs help. And in that, you'll find fulfillment in a way that you won't know any other. And I believe that.
I believe that too. I appreciate that. And I guess I'm naive enough to say that I think you could do that in the drug treatment program. Help others.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think so that positive is being denied right now because of a urine analysis or a threat of future urine analysis.
I'm in line, and I've spoken to my case manager here, Miss Letitia, who's been very helpful, and she's spoken to Carrie Bennett, and I'm in line to go back and do it again. So it's not like I'm just saying no, and it's not that. I'm gonna go do it, and I'll help who I can help along the way. And I'm trying, man.
Yeah, I believe that. May I ask also, what's going to happen when you complete that program? What's next on the list in terms of challenges, obstacles, opportunities after drug treatment?
I would ask for some kind of structured step down program or something along those lines towards paroling, right? I mean, I think that's kind of the way it goes. I mean,
in Minnesota or in where you're at now?
I mean, I guess I'd have to come back to do it there, right? I mean, but in the meantime, I'd like to stay here and do it here and do the drug treatment stuff here and get this stuff done. But it's ultimately up to you, right?
Yeah, this board has that authority or that power or that responsibility. But right now you'd like to get some stuff cleaned up or get some things settled where you're at and then move back to Minnesota?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's what I'm saying. Yeah, I guess that's what I'm getting at. I had some, little talking points and stuff wrote down here. I just asked that, if you're gonna pass me, and you're gonna make me stay, I've been here for 7 years now, and I have a positive environment I'm currently in. don't have to look over my shoulder or have to deal with all the old beefs and grudges that are there waiting for me. And I'm better
In
off here.
Minnesota? Beefs and grudges
Yeah.
are waiting for you in Minnesota?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I hear you.
And I'm back in line for the treatment program, and I'm almost done with victim impact. I'm on module 8, and there's 12 modules, so I got like 4 weeks left. And it
Okay.
makes more sense. It makes more sense just to let me stay here. I just need a little more time. I just need more time to get everything figured out. I did the MRT, and I'm like I said, I'm almost done with victim impact, which is based on restorative justice.
Uh-huh.
And I did the Becoming Your Best leadership with Steve Schallenberger. You know, that class really was wonderful, man. That really affected my life. It really did. I was so happy to be there with him and Ron Williams and Corbin Church. You know, they really care for us. They really want us to do better.
Is that still available for you?
Yes, sir. I
Okay.
go there as a mentor now because I graduated it.
What about Native American? I really appreciate and respect your connection with the Native community and values and tradition. What's happening there for you?
Oh, yeah, I every Saturday, first Saturday of the month, we have an Anipi Kaga sweat lodge ceremony. And I'm our drum group's lead singer. That's how I do. I do my medicine and stuff, and I love to sing.
Yes.
And that's my heart. I think in another life I was a singer somewhere because I really enjoy that. And I've pledged to Sundance whenever I do finally get home in Pipestone, Minnesota,
Uh-huh. I'm familiar with that. Yes.
with my my family. They do a Sundance there every year.
Uh-huh. So family has been part of that for a long time.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And I'm going to give my life to ceremonies and to raising my nieces and nephews and someday my own children. I don't care about gang stuff. I don't care about none of that political stuff. I just want to go to work, pay my taxes, and be left alone and go to ceremonies and be with my family and get to know them again.
Uh-huh.
I've met any of my nieces or nephews. And it's heartbreaking, truly. And I have so much regret, man. You know, my heart's broken. And I'm wrong for what I did, you know, and I'm sorry. And if I could bring Junior back, and if I could take it back, I would. But there's nothing I can do.
Oh, I think you're doing it. That's what you've just showed me.
If I could talk to myself when I was young, you know, I'd tell him, Jeffrey, you don't have to do this stuff. You should just stay with your grandparents, bro. You should go in the army. You should make a life. You don't have to be like your dad. You know, I was homeless. My dad was in prison. And my mom was strung out on dope.
Yes. Yes. Painful. Painful.
That's not an excuse, you know, but that is reality. That puts some things in perspective, right? And I just, I wish I could talk to myself when I was that age.
I think I see you working right now. I'm also interested in what's happening with you and your dad. I understand there's a connection there. Do I understand that correctly?
Yes. My dad's been out, he's been out since February of last year. He's at home and, he's doing good. And he has a job at our casino. And, he does, he has a master's in like landscaping and doing that kind of stuff. And, has plans to get his business back running. And I just talk to him. I talk to him every day, almost every day. And, you know, he said, Jeffrey, you know, if you can come home, we'll get you a job at the casino with me. You know, we can make it work and, we can be a family again.
Wow, what a gift. I use the word grace that goes along with that, from exploitation to grace. That your dad's there.
Yeah. Yeah, he loves me. He does. And you know, he spent most of his life in prison and he just said, you know, Jeffrey, we gotta stay home, man, and just be with these little ones and show them a better way. And that's what I want to do. Sorry for getting all emotional, but
No. You're showing me the better way that you got there. Thank you. You know, I'll open it up to further questions from other in the group, unless there's more you and I can talk about.
Mr. Pendleton, can I just ask a question related to something that Mr. Schrufert just asked? Or part of that discussion. You talked about staying there, wanting to stay there. And one of the reasons you indicated, at least, it was concerns about beefs that may exist here. And so I wanted to address, and I think I recall last time we talked about the possibility of you coming back after doing some things there. But let me just ask this point blank. Do you think that coming back to Minnesota, if you were in a medium level custody facility, do you think you could manage that or navigate that without problems?
I don't think so. But I mean, who knows exactly? But just given the nature of everything, I don't think it would go over so hot.
Okay. I asked that simply because as much as I hear some of I see some of the things that you're doing that I really am impressed by, but then I'm trying to think about this pathway. Like, what's the pathway home, and what does that look like? And because I'm concerned, it's not just about like moving to a facility here. Some of these beefs, some of these challenges, as you well know, are going to exist elsewhere. And so if you could help give us a sense of how do we navigate that going forward? You know what I mean by that question?
I think I take your meaning. Well, I just say, when you're in prison, you can't get away from it. It's there and you just have to deal with it, and out in the world, like I said, I would just avoid those people and like, hey bro, like, miss me with that, dude. I'm not even gonna entertain any of that. You know what I mean? I would just avoid all that kind of stuff like the plague. And I do that here. but there's only, I mean, you can only go to the other side of the room, you know what I mean? And you can only do so much, in other words. And I what I can do, I do. I'll just put it that way.
But you
can
see,
do-
it seems like you have done some navigation of those issues, those challenges there. Would you agree with that? Is that fair? That, you know, that you've stayed out of some of the, I don't know, politics, the STG stuff, the whatever beefs that may exist there.
Yeah.
And so is it just the history that would make it a challenge to coming back here?
That's a big part of it, yeah.
Yeah.
But the politics are a bit different
Okay.
there than they are
Okay.
here as
Okay.
well. There, it's kind of more it's a lot more racial. And it's just something I wouldn't be able to avoid there. I don't believe that, not in my heart. If I come there, it's gonna be an issue, I believe. And I mean, I'm willing to do it. I'm gonna do what you tell me to do.
Well, no. Here's the thing. The last thing I want to do is set you up for failure, right? We don't want to set you up for failure. That's not in anybody's best interest. And yet at the same time, I think some way, someday, Jeff Pendleton is coming back to Minnesota. And so then what does that look like? And
right.
Okay.
I just that's the best I can answer for now, right?
I appreciate that. I appreciate the honesty of that answer. I do.
I have one question, Mr. Pendleton, that's pretty practical. How long is substance abuse treatment there? If you get back in and you do what you have to do and you complete it, how long will that take?
Around 6 to 7 months. You know,
Thank you.
well, they do
Yeah.
some wiggle room for, staff can't make it or holiday, etc. So it's around that general area.
Thank you.
I have a question for Mr. Pendleton. If I understand correctly, like, so your long-term goal in terms of, release back into the community is to return to, I think the reservation, you said. Is it the reservation or the area where your crime was committed?
So yeah, I'll answer that in two parts. So yes, as far as I know, when you go on parole, from my understanding, I mean, I'm no expert, right? I've never been out, but I thought you had to go back to your county of commit, right? Whatever they committed you to the department. And then I don't know if you can put in a transfer from there or not, or whatever. Personally, I would probably like to go to Minneapolis. I think that might be a little easier on me. And to stay away from, negativity, etc., things that are on the res. But if you want me to go back there, like I said, I'll go. And my dad's there and he's been navigating it and he's there to help me. I have my family there. I have family in Minneapolis too. My auntie Dina, she says she'll take me. She's like, I got a room for you right now, Jeffrey. You can come here and everyone they'll leave you alone. You'll be with us. So I have my family in Wisconsin, my grandparents, Chuck and Mina, they mean the world to me. They've been there for me my whole life. My whole life they've been there. And all they ask of me is to be there to bury them. That's all they ask. Jeffrey, you need to come home and do what they tell you so that when we pass away, you can take care of our affairs. And that's so I that's if it would be too hard there or whatever, then I would go to Minneapolis maybe maybe that with my Auntie Dina and them and her whole side of the family. I mean, there's options there is what I'm trying to point out, right?
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that. And certainly, you know, the commissioner or Rebecca could certainly speak to more. To your point, there are options in terms of release planning. One of the reasons I was kind of going in that direction was just kind of curious, like if you were to release back to the reservation, how you think that would sit with, and I don't know if, you know, victim family members are still there. Like, do you have concerns about that dynamic? You know, I don't know if there's bad blood or even potentially what that would do to, you know, to the victim family members if they're still there. So I'm just kind of curious what your thoughts are on that.
So like I said, my dad's been out for a while now, and keep in mind, the victim's family is also mine too, right? And
Yep.
so my dad has talked to a lot of them, and from my understanding, you know, just telling you what my dad has said to me is that they're like, well, we're okay with Jeffrey coming home. You know, he was a stupid kid, and what happened, and they're more worried and more mad at Keith Crow and Morris Pendleton because they were older, you know, and they had been to prison already, and they should have known better. That's the sentiment that was told to my dad. And so that's my sentiment. And I think my little cousin Nathan had wrote a letter to you guys, to the board, and talked about doing some ceremonies, the Kichi-Yushkapi, the untying ceremony, and the wiping of the tears. You know, that's something that I'd like to do with my aunt, and it's a ceremony that they would do back in the day to untie, so that there wouldn't be revenge killings or honor killings, or, you know, people wouldn't seek vengeance on each other, and it would snowball, and then people's brothers and fathers and sons and etc. would inherit these things, and it'd tear the tribe apart. It would tear the community apart. So it was our way of doing restorative justice, I guess you might say. And it's something I've looked into. And I talked to Laura Velaz. She does Native American traditional restorative justice there in Minnesota. And I spoke to her and told her thank you for doing this stuff, and trying to give our people a better way of dealing with their grief, you know, and instead of, you know, harboring that hurt, you know, there's a better way. And you know, I want to do the right thing, man. I promise you I do.
Yeah. But I appreciate that. And I'll just close with, I go back to actually one of the strengths that was listed within your assessment is that you say, if you say you're going to do something, you are going to do it. He says what he means. So I hope you hear that and remember that on this treatment piece. I know you say you don't think you need it. I do think there's something that you can potentially benefit from. So I really want you to, and encourage you to continue pushing forward on that.
Yes, sir. If you tell me to do it, I'm gonna do it, man. Just so I can go home, you know, and I know I do have an issue with alcohol. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like that's not a thing. Yeah, but I've also went 11, 12 years without drinking at one time. And, it's something I can just say no to. No, man, I'm good. I'm not doing that because these are the consequences. It's not, it's a different kind of beast, and it's something I can say no to. But at the same time, I understand it's something I have a problem with. And that's why I go to AA and the Wellbriety here. They have a class here called Native American Wellbriety, which is, it's Native American AA, right? And I go there and I'll sing traditional songs. And it's just something that you keep doing, each week or every other week. And so yeah, I just don't want you to think like I'm just discounting it or not saying, I know I have an issue with that, but it's something that I can deal with easier than it would be, say, fentanyl or methamphetamine, right? It's,
Mr. Pendleton, if I can just say, I want to just acknowledge it, just in the interest of time here. I hear what you're saying. I want to make sure I give your attorney a chance here to speak and talk a little bit. And if there's anything else, we'll come back to you to give you an opportunity to close this out. But Mr. Longsdorf, I just want to open the floor to you to provide your thoughts to the board.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yep, loud and clear.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So I think I can provide a little bit of context on this diluted urine thing that Jeff was talking about that I don't think that he necessarily mentioned, because he has tried very hard to get into that program and was completing it quite well. What happened was about halfway through, the facility out there switched from an outside drug testing facility to an in-house facility. And when that happened, a large portion of the class got these notices that their samples were diluted. And there was some discipline pending from that. But what's happening now is that people are having those disciplinary proceedings dismissed when they've challenged it. And it seems likely that Jeff is in line to have that done as well. Although at this point, he's out of the course and the damage is done. But I just wanted to reiterate that this is not a situation where he had failed a drug test or that he had taken any kind of overt step that resulted in him not being able to complete the course. And he is trying desperately to get that done. The other thing was that Jeff had mentioned, he's concerned about what'll happen when he comes back to Minnesota, and then specifically, how is he going to be able to deal with it in a correctional facility. And I just wanted to note, I don't want to get into a ton of detail about exactly what he told me, but this is a situation that didn't really have anything whatsoever to do with Jeff. It was somebody in his family, but not him, something that happened where Jeff was not any part of it. But it's a situation where there's a lot of blowback on him. And what he's really concerned about is that he's trying to keep himself in a position where he's moving forward to a place where he's going to be on supervised release. And I think it just seems, based on his past interactions in Minnesota, that when he comes back, there will be people who continue to target him. And as they do that, he's going to be in a position, as he said, because he can't get away like he could if he was out in the world, where he's going to be either assaulted and get hurt, or he's going to have to fight. And neither one of those are things that are really compatible with where he's trying to get in this case. So I guess that's just kind of the context on those two things. And then really the other thing I wanted to mention was that, this is a case where Jeff was only 15 years old at the time of this offense, and he was the youngest person involved by a couple of years. And his youth doesn't excuse his actions here, but it does provide some context for how he got to where he is. And I think kind of the way that this law came about, where juveniles are able to be up for review after 15 years, kind of tracked along with some United States Supreme Court decisions that were based on sort of brain science about how juveniles are less culpable than adults, and they're more unique and their ability to change as they mature. And sort of the end case on that was this Miller v. Alabama, where the Supreme Court said that juvenile offenders can't get automatic life without the possibility of parole sentences. And they sort of identified kind of three hallmark features of adolescence that made the juveniles different, including a lack of maturity and an underdeveloped sense of responsibility, leading to recklessness, impulsivity, and heedless risk-taking, vulnerability to negative influences and outside pressures, including from their family and peers, and a character that's not as well formed as an adult. And I think that if we look at Mr. Pendleton in this case, he's really got a lot of those hallmarks that both sort of went into how he got himself into this situation where he took part in a series of events that resulted in a family member's death. And also, but we can see it now where the Supreme Court has talked about people who were juveniles had a sort of a unique opportunity to change and to rehabilitate as they became older and more mature. And I noticed Mr. Pendleton talked about some of these factors that led up to his being involved in this crime. And I would note, I think that he's accepted a great deal of responsibility. He was part of this. There's things in the record that suggest that he didn't want to cause any further harm to the victim and that he was sort of overridden by the other members of the group. And I think that the things he did willingly, and he knew they were wrong and he did them anyway, but he didn't stab the victim in this case and he didn't cause his death. And they put a knife in his hand and told him to, and he said, no, I won't do it. And that's sort of what the Supreme Court talked about with this vulnerability to peer pressure. As the youngest member in the group, he said, no, we can't do this. Let's not do it. He's overridden. He did these things willingly, but kind of under duress. And again, that doesn't explain or doesn't excuse his actions, but it's kind of an explanation. But the second part is the Supreme Court also emphasizes that the science shows that the differences of youth mean that the young offenders are unique in their ability to change as they mature. And I really think you can see that in Mr. Pendleton's record. When he first came in, his record was really not very good. When he was really young, he's in there. I think young offenders in facilities are kind of targeted, and when they have sentences, they're not a high priority for programming. And so you see a lot of, they get in trouble, they get involved in gangs, they hook up with people they think are looking out for them, and later find out they didn't. But as Jeff has grown, he talked about a lot of these things, and we've seen him. He completed this Becoming Your Best Leadership Academy, which is a 5-month leadership course for entrepreneurs. His review packet contains a support letter, I believe, from the facilitator of that class, Steve Schallenberger. Jeff completed a program called Moral Recognition Therapy. It's kind of similar to restorative justice in Minnesota. He's almost done with his victim impact class. I would note that 5 years ago, before this legislative review process was passed, Mr. Pendleton voluntarily entered and completed a 2-year program called the Modified Monitor Program. That's a program for inmates who want to leave gang life behind, and it's a 2-year, heavily involved program with really strict monitoring to ensure that participants are actually committed to leaving the gang life behind. Mr. Pendleton did this for himself 5 years ago, long before this law giving him the opportunity at the possibility of this review was passed. We can also see his maturity and how he spends his free time. He's been attending these AA or Wellbriety meetings for 5 years or more, takes part in sweat lodge ceremonies. He's an active member of a drum circle. He attends study groups on topics like philosophy and ethics. He spends his free time bodybuilding and doing art instead of getting in trouble out there. And, you know, he's kind of leaned into his Native American culture and all the benefits that can come from that, like being part of the drum circle. And my final thing is, I think that Mr. Pendleton is someone kind of matured in almost the exact ways that the brain science would envision he would as he became older and fully matured. And I think that allowing Mr. Pendleton the ability to get started on a step-down program is really consistent with what the legislature was hoping to accomplish in passing a 15-year review. And this is a case where Jeff was 15 years old when he was involved in committing this crime and played the role he did. He's now been in prison or in jail for almost 5 years longer, over 5 years longer than he was out of prison before he went in. And we think that he should get an opportunity to prove through becoming a part of the step down process that he can be safely released now that he's fully grown and matured. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Mr. Pendleton, I just want to ask a question related to something that your attorney just mentioned. And I'm not just doing this for this purpose, but I want to just ask if as we think about what the future looks like for you, and I think, you know, this notion of step down and returning to the community and whether, and you know, what that process looks like. If there was a conversation that could be arranged just so that there would be the ability to get a sense of what and where the risks are that exist, right? And we don't need to have that conversation here, but just so that there's a level of understanding, because I think that's going to be important, whether it's for ultimately for supervision purposes or whatever, that there is an awareness of, you know, where some of these challenges exist. If that were to happen, be arranged with you through Utah there, would you be willing to engage in that conversation just so that there's a level of awareness around what and where and those risks might be?
Yes, sir. I'd be more than willing. I'd be happy to do that.
Excellent. I appreciate that. Thank you. Mr. Pendleton, I just want to give you one last opportunity here to make whatever comments you'd like to the board before we enter into discussion and deliberation about next steps.
I just ask that you know, just look at, you know, I'm trying, I really am, you know, just please keep that in mind, and that, you know, I promise you, I give you my word, man, I'm trying to do the right thing. And I love my family, truly. And I'm trying to make things right as best I can. And you know, I'm sorry I didn't get this done, but if you just give me a little more time, I'll do it. I'm back in line to go there again, so I'll get her done. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. With that, I'm going to close this portion of the discussion and turn it over to the board for discussion and deliberation about next steps. And during that time, the board will not entertain questions or allow interruptions. So, thoughts?
Well, could I make a motion, deny parole, continue for, I'm thinking a year, maybe we need longer, just so he can complete CD treatment, no further discipline, and help us figure out what the next step should be for him?
There's a motion and a second. Discussion.
I'm getting more into how the brain.
Microphone.
I'm getting more into what brain development is in those mid years between 18 and 30. There's 9 functions that relate to what's happening in the middle prefrontal cortex. He's displaying a lot of it. And how can we pay more attention to those development? The neuroscience is coming. And I think he's a good example of it, is where I'm at. Thank you.
I really appreciate and support to Commissioner the more direct conversation about the threats that he's facing, who went, what, where, and of course, knowing the facilities in the state. Then, I mean, is it in all of them, or can he be stepped down into this relatively safe place where he can get more vocational kinds of training or whatever, so that then he's on the path. So a year to have that kind of time to figure that out.
Okay. Other thoughts? Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. This would be a denial of parole, continuance for a period of 12 months with the expectation that he would complete the treatment program out in Oregon, where he's at presently, that he would, Utah, I'm sorry, and that he would also remain discipline-free during that time, and that he would work with us to help get a deeper assessment of what risks and what and where those risks may be, so that at least the board in the future could make some decisions around that in a more confidential form, which we have the ability to do for security purposes. So there's a motion and a second. We'll call the roll. To the motion, Board Member Bray.
Yes.
Board Member Earhart.
Yes.
Board Member Larson.
Yes.
Board Member Ramstead.
Yes.
Board Member Nelson.
Yes.
Board Member Strufert.
Yes.
And Schnell votes yes. The motion prevails. Mr. Pendleton, you've heard the decision of the board here. We encourage you to do what you can to finish that program. In the meantime, we'll also have an opportunity to connect with you just to talk about, because I do think that, you know, the concern here is we do see a lot of the positives that you're demonstrating in your leadership and your really strong connection with the Native American cultural stuff and the importance of family. And yet we want to be in a place where we're ensuring that your transition could be safe, secure, and successful. And so we look forward to working with you on that. Any questions?
Just thank you all for your time and for being understanding, and you know, like I said, I appreciate everything, and I'm gonna do my best. I'm back in line. I'm almost done with victim impact. I got a couple more weeks of that, and we'll reconvene, and I'll get this stuff done for you guys.
Appreciate it. And I also just say this, do it for you as well, right? Don't
Cool.
just do it for us, we do it for you, because at the end of the day, this is all about you. Okay?
Absolutely.
All right.
And,
thank you. Good luck to you.
Thank you for hearing me out.
You bet.
Okay, and we will see him again in another year. We will be back, as we say, time goes by so fast. So make sure to check out the return of playlist. The playlists are the best. That's where you can see all the hearings that are similar. Actually, this will just be in the Minnesota playlist. I don't know if I have a return of playlist for the Minnesota playlist. Maybe I need to make one, but just check the Minnesota playlist. Anyways, I digress. I'm blabbering like a Mandoo. We've been here a long time, almost 3 hours. Look, I think my main takeaway from this is, like, he didn't grow a minute in the past amount of time. He showed up to the parole hearing literally butting heads with the commissioner. It shows that he still has a major anger problem, a major maturity problem. He's absolutely not ready to get let out of prison. Forget the empathy thing, forget all of that. It was like a reality check. Like, holy cow, this guy is not nearly ready. I mean, there's nothing. I mean, it was mind-boggling. Think about what he would be like out in the public, how quickly he could probably snap and end up back in prison or hurting someone. It's like, I mean, whether or not whether you want to look at it like, yeah, he was 15 years old and he should have another chance at life. But we have seen so many parole hearings. We have seen people excel in prison. And then we have seen people, like, in my opinion, like him, who just are not. They're not excelling. And and then the next thing, he might not have a substance abuse problem, and those might be false negatives or whatever with this, but then the DOC is a major problem. So either way, there's a major problem here, and something should be looked into. The DOC, or I mean, you shouldn't have an uncertainty coming to your parole hearing. Something's not right. Something is not adding up, and that is messed up, in my opinion. And it's like, I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced he's going to go and finish this program, but he's getting closer. He's getting closer. You know, it's like they should just step. You know, they'll probably step him down to medium security, and then minimum security, and then they do work release. At least with Minnesota, they do that right. Some of these, you know, the other states we cover, like Louisiana, it's like, well, you can be in Angola, you might be a trustee, you might be a maximum. But you might just get paroled out into the streets, and here they have like the step down thing. But no, man. And okay, here's the point I wanted to make before I let you go. The parole board member on the left side with the older guy. So he's the one who like settled him down. He's the one who settled him down. First, he's butting heads with the commissioner, and then he goes on. This guy goes into this whole conversation. He like brings things down to earth. He calms everything down. He's like, and he got him into a conversation. He got him talking. He got his. That was, you can look at it a few ways. You can look at it as like, oh my gosh, like, are we dealing with children here? Or you can. I thought it was impressive. It was impressive how he just changed the mood of the room, and try to and really change the direction of even the parole hearing. But in my opinion, still, he failed the test. I mean, Mr. Pendleton failed the test because he comes out with aggression, and there's no confidence that he will be successful on the outside. From my perspective, that's the Mandoo perspective. Now, leave your comments, because when we come back in a year, I'll read them. And I also want to know whether or not you think he's going to complete the program successfully. And I don't know. That was the big thing. I'll do it for you guys. And from the last comment that we read, right, about just in the DNA and having, he should be taking the substance abuse programs. Just, all the other, this case, I think more so because when he does get released, he's going to have to make sure he doesn't pick up the bottle because it's going against him, right? It's going against in the DNA type of thing. Anyways, thank you, Sir Richard, for connecting the dots and pulling the research, putting in the notes. There's so much research on this case. There's actually like 5 pages of it. I don't, there's just, there's so many appeals. It's really crazy. Should I just give you a screen share so you can see how nutty it is? Look at the work that Sir Richard puts into this stuff. All these are links, and this was Lady Holly with the Google Drive 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1 to all this research. Oh my gosh, it's nonstop. Then the news articles, and then we have Sir Richard's personal evaluation, and yeah, there you have it. There you have it. Also, we have Diane, who's doing the Minnesota hearings, but she was in the hospital for a pretty severe situation, similar to what Lady Holly had with the infection. So thank God Lady Diane is doing well. And she will be back at the Minnesota hearings. But anyways, I'll see you guys in a year on this one. And with that, I'll let you go.
I don't even remember the first trip, really. I don't remember it really. The first time we got in that truck, because I had been drinking all day and all night, till that night.
When you say I did what I did, what is that? What did you do?
Did I kill him? I don't remember. When I do remember Morris given like this, and Keith says I did, but I don't remember it. I don't remember it. I can do 1,000 years in here and I can say I'm sorry 1,000,000 times, but I can't bring him back.